Believe, an LA football podcast.
Touchdown Rams!
Touchdown UCLA!
Recovered by the Chargers.
The Trojans back in front.
Touchdown Wildcats!
With your host, Ryan Dyrud, on the Believe Podcast Network and LAFBnetwork.com. This is your destination for Los Angeles football.
What's up, Los Angeles football fans, and welcome to another edition of the Believe in LA Football Podcast here on the Believe Podcast Network, also on LAFBnetwork.com, your destination for all your favorite Los Angeles football teams. Well, it's been a sombering year. Sombering year. It's been a tough week or so now. You know, I've been kind of wrestling with how I wanted to approach today's episode. We're going to talk some UCLA football, talk Martin Jarmond, the newest addition, the new AD of UCLA, and kind of what he'll bring to the program, what we can expect maybe on the football side. We'll do a little Chargers and Rams talk, but I felt I needed to at least talk a little bit about, you know, the George Floyd murder, the racism that still exists in this country, sadly, the riots that we're seeing going on, communities being torn apart. So I felt that I wanted to at least give my 2 cents. If you don't want to hear it, just skip forward. It'll be just a couple minutes. You know, I've always on this podcast, since I started it over, a year and a half ago. Since I started writing 3 or 4 years ago about sports. I've always wanted to keep politics out of it. One, because honestly I hate politics. I just think nothing good usually comes from talking about politics. You're not going to sway anyone's opinion. It just creates malice and argumentative opportunity, which we're talking sports. There's plenty of arguments and debates, but I feel like it's a much more good-natured. Politics get nasty, so I hate that aspect. I think I'm not a huge fan of politicians in general. I just think they're kind of slimy, but that's for a different conversation. But this isn't politics. This is talking about human life, our neighbors, our community. Specifically here in Los Angeles, where we live, and most of you listening probably live in LA, but we do have other people that live in other parts of this nation or even other parts of the world. Thank you for listening. But we all deal with stuff like this. We're all witness stuff like this. I shouldn't say we all deal with, or we deal differently with stuff like this. But I've always seen this podcast as an escape. One, for me, as I have a passion for football, obviously, or I wouldn't be doing this. 2, I wanted to be able to tell the stories of the great Los Angeles teams. I don't consider myself necessarily a reporter or journalist, although I do some of that every now and then. But more so, I want to be a storyteller. You know, there's great athletes in this game, great athletes, great coaches, great personnel, just great people in this game, and I want to be able to talk about that. And also for you, the listener, if you listen to me twice a week, my hope was that for those 2 hours a week, you can escape the mundane of your job, maybe, escape from anything going on at home, and just listen to LA football talk. Have good guests on, we have some fun. That's my goal, and that will be my goal always, and especially going forward. But it'd be wrong of me to at least not mention kind of how I feel about what's going on. Whether you call this a platform, I mean, this is a platform. We do have thousands of people that listen. Again, thank you. And it just breaks my heart seeing what's going on. Absolutely breaks my heart. The fact that there are people in this country, black people in this country, that have to worry about their livelihood, when they step out of the house, that have a fear of dealing with law enforcement. Now, I've had my fair share of unpleasant encounters with law enforcement. Most of mine have been for routine traffic, and usually I would say I haven't been treated respectfully, but never once did I fear for my life. Never once did I get pulled over and say, oh man, if I don't say exactly the right thing, this could be it for me. I never had to deal with that fear. Sure, maybe an uncomfortable encounter, or I left feeling disrespected. But the fact that there are black people and other people, Latinos, Asians, minorities, other groups, that thought actually goes through their head. And we've seen it over and over and over again. We hear about it. There's video of it. Most recently, George Floyd murdered. Murdered. In this country, we have a justice system that says you are innocent until proven guilty. Now, whether or not he was committing a crime does not justify him being murdered. Period. End of discussion. It breaks my heart. It's absolutely horrible. And of course, there are great police officers out there. My brother is a police officer. My brother is a great man, a loving man, and he joined the force to do good, to help create change for this problem. Of course there's good, but anyone that wants to jump on this immediate defense mechanism of us versus you, police versus minority groups, why? That's not helping. I saw a tweet recently, and I can't remember who it was, so I'm sorry I can't give you credit, but it basically said, for those that say all lives matter as opposed to Black Lives Matter, of course all lives matter. Of course they do. But they don't matter until Black Lives Matter. And then they painted or not really painted, but they tweeted out, imagine a neighborhood of houses. Everyone cares about their neighborhood, all the houses in the neighborhood. But if one house is on fire, your attention should go to that house on fire. You don't look at the house 3 doors down, 4 doors down that's totally safe and fine. Everyone should turn their attention to that house on fire. I thought that was a good way to kind of say, look, of course, all lives matter. We have to look at the lives right now that are being most affected by this and do what we can to help, whatever that is. I sit here often as a white male wondering, what can I do to help? What can I do to help? Obviously, I have a podcast here, a platform, if you will, but there needs to be more done. More done. If you're listening right now, message me on Twitter, Ryan Dyrud, LAFB. You can comment wherever you are listening to this podcast. Email me, podcast@lafbnetwork.com. Let me know how I can help. My wife and I were watching our church service yesterday. It's still done remotely, so we were at home watching church. And the message yesterday was on servanthood. Now, I don't know if it was just ironic that was the planned message going on during this time, or if our pastor maybe switched things up a little bit to talk about this during this time. But it hit home, and it's so true. Because even what I'm doing now, so many people love to do this. We sit on a soapbox. We preach about what's right, what's wrong. We say you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you shouldn't be rioting, you should be upset and rioting is okay. But really, how we create change, or at least create healing, is by serving. By serving others. People in power are put in power to serve others, to serve those that do not have power. So I want to start going just in our community. This is a problem at the top of our nation that needs to be addressed. But the easiest way, not even the easiest, the best way right now moving forward to create change is what can you do in your community, in your apartment complex, in your neighborhood? How can you serve others? Reach out to your neighbors. I want to reach out to the people in my community. I'm here in Pasadena. How can I serve you? How can you serve others? That's how we start creating change. By serving each other. Bringing a positive light among all of us. And I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling. This wasn't prepared. I wanted to speak from the heart. But I think that's the best way that we can really benefit one another. Is just being there to serve one another. To listen. To listen when there's needs. I was thinking of Martin Luther King and his famous, of course, I Have a Dream speech. I wondered how many people have actually heard the speech. Everyone knows that I have a dream. Just that phrase. It's about a 16-minute speech. I recommend looking it up because it's a phenomenal speech. Obviously one of the most influential people in not only the United States but in the world. A great, great man, father, husband, activist, obviously. But I wanted to read part of the speech. I don't know how many people have really read it or heard it. So bear with me, it's just a little snippet here. It's a long speech, but here's a little bit. And so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creeds. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. Now, this speech was 57 years ago in 1963. And in those 57 years, our country overall has made strides. There has been improvement. But still 57 years later, there are people, black people, who have this same dream that MLK had, but are still living a nightmare. Still living a nightmare. I saw a coworker of mine posted she had to recently, because of all this, and would have had to anyway, which is so sad. She's a black woman, had to have a conversation with her son, who's 9 years old, about how he would have to act differently in society, or how he would be looked at differently. Breaks your heart. Breaks my heart. I think of my daughter if I had to have that conversation. And my daughter technically is mixed. She'll be half white like me and half Mexican like my wife. But she will not have to endure the same difficulties as a black child. But I promise you this, she will be raised correctly to serve others, to see others for their character. And that's the other way we start. We raise our kids the right way. We raise our kids to serve others. And that's how we start change. That's it. Serve your community. Serve others. If you have power, how can you serve? Protesting is great. Voting is great. Serving others is better. So, if you're listening, please reach out to me. How can I serve you? How can my family serve you? We stand together. We stand united. There's so many blessings in this country, in this life that we've all built together. But there's also a lot of bad things. And as long as there's evil in this world, there will always be things to be improved on. And that starts by serving others. So, please reach out to me, Ryan Dybert, LAFB on Twitter. If you're on Twitter, email me, podcast@lafbnetwork.com. I just wanted to say that, whether it was well said or well orated, I don't know. But that's just how I feel. I love people. I love relationships. And it breaks my heart seeing what people are going through, what people go through every day. Because I can't relate. I don't know what that's like. But let me serve you and help any way I can. Let me know what that looks like. Because sometimes I just don't know. And I need to know. So let me serve you. All right. Well, let's be better about that. But yeah, let's talk a little football today. We'll try to, now we can maybe escape for a little bit from the horrors that are having and going on. And let's talk a little bit about Los Angeles football.